Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Trey Farkas, and on today's Season 3 bonus episode, it's my conversation with Holly Ransom, a Seacoast yoga teacher, sound healer, holistic coach, podcast host, social media creator, and waitress at the kitchen. She's just 28 years old, but she is one of the smartest people I have ever met, and Holly and I are actually co-workers at Three Bridges Yoga, but more than that, she is a dear friend of mine, and as we wind down the year and settle into the holiday season, I am craving good conversations with good friends. So expect things to be more laid back here on the show over the next few weeks before we hit the ground running in 2026. As for today's episode, Holly and I discuss her old days working at The Wilder and how they led her to get sober. Plus, we talk about the power of dance, how to connect to yourself in the noisy modern world, inner child healing, astrology, attachment styles, and all sorts of spiritual things. Like me, Holly's a bit of a weirdo, but I love her for that, and I think you will too. Today's episode is presented by Sage Portsmouth and Three Bridges Yoga. Speaking of which, we begin today's episode with Holly telling us where her yoga teaching story begins. I'm dying to know about your Costa Rica yoga teacher training experience. So it's very cliche for anyone who goes through one of these experiences to at some point end up crying on the mat or to have some type of holy shit realization, some type of epiphany. Did you have any of those moments?
The entire thing. Crying on the mat. I cried every single day.
Wow.
I am a very deeply feeling human. And in more recent years, I'm learning how to really accept that about myself and how to embrace that. But it took me a long time to get there. And in Costa Rica at that yoga teacher training, having the experience of crying so much and just opening my heart so fully in a room of 9 or 10 of us. So it was like an intimate crew. But in a room of strangers that were strangers before this experience, to bare my heart and soul to them is very vulnerable. And I couldn't do it any other way. And it felt intense, but throughout that whole month that I was there, the women were really sharing, they were sharing how healing it was for them to be given the permission to express themselves and to access those places within themselves because they saw me doing it. So that was very healing for me to be like, oh, this thing that I've judged myself for so long of feeling like too much or feeling so deeply is actually a permission slip for other people. But that being said, the most impactful part of the yoga teacher training for me was we did a lot of chanting, the bhakti aspect of yoga, which is the devotional and emotional aspect of yoga. And I was like, talk about holy shit. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so seen right now. Like this, I got this in the bag. I'm a master at this version of yoga. Just kidding. It's a lifelong thing. It's a lifelong thing. But it just felt like, again, this is so cliche, but it did feel like a homecoming of this is a gift that I have and not something that I have to judge myself so aggressively for. And I could do a whole entire podcast episode on all of the epiphanies and beautiful experiences, but that's what I'll land on for that.
What was the biggest thing you learned about yourself from that month in Costa Rica?
Well, this is interesting. I've been thinking a lot and doing a lot more inner child work lately. And I accessed this. It started before I went to Costa Rica. It was something that was coming up before. But while I was there, I really accessed this realization that I have put other people before myself in my life for my whole life. And one of the roots of that was that my sister had leukemia when she was 11. I was 5. So I learned that it was literally life or death for me to put my needs behind other people's needs, because my sister was in a position of she physically needed that attention more than I did at the time. But as a little 5-year-old nervous system, I didn't understand that. I was just like, why am I not getting all the love that I need right now? And in Costa Rica, I was able to really come into conversation with that part of myself and recognize the ways that I was still acting from that place and still putting other people's needs so far ahead of my own. And I am in a season in this moment of my life as well of like revisiting that lesson of the learned codependency of I have played this role of fixing or helping or stepping aside for other people for so long that it takes a lot of practice and patience with myself to kind of move beyond that and have my own boundaries and know that I am deeply worthy of love, even though I had that funny little experience when I was 5 and didn't get the love that I needed in that moment. So yeah, just the inner child relating was a really big part of that.
It's clear that you are a very contemplative person. As you said, lots of healing work has been done, and becoming a yoga teacher is a big part of that. I know another big part of your healing story is you made the decision a little over 2 years ago to become sober. So congratulations. I know it's been 2+ years of you being sober. So well done on you. I know that's not easy. What led you to make that declaration?
A lot of different things led to that decision. I will say my family has a history of alcoholism and addiction. So that was always in the back of my mind. Like through college, I did not drink as much as my friends. I still drank a fuck ton because you're in college and that is what's normalized. But I still was always cautious of that and leaned more into marijuana than I did alcohol. And when I graduated though, and especially moving to New Hampshire, I didn't know anyone when I moved to New Hampshire. So how do you usually meet people? You go out to the bars, you go out, I don't know. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go meet people at the library. I didn't know how else to meet people because I had just pretty recently graduated and was so used to, I met people in classes, I met people at parties. And so I ended up getting a job at the Wilder and it was so fun. It was a great experience for just moving here and being young in my 20s. But it got to the point that I was relying on that for my social sphere. And I ended up drinking more working that job because I was the weekend waitress. I ended up drinking more working there than I really was even in college. And it just became this pattern that didn't feel good. And I always had this little lingering aspect inside of myself that was like, this is not fully authentic to you the way that you're acting right now. And it was fun and it was easy. And because those are the friends that I met, it just was like, oh, you guys want to go to the park with a bottle of wine and like have some cheese and crackers? Yeah, sounds great. But then every single hangout was around alcohol. And I was getting really tired of it. And some of us were sharing similar sentiments. And we were like, this is exhausting. Like we are getting a little bit older and we're starting to feel this more. And I actually did a sober June with my housemate at the time who also worked there. And it felt so good. We were like, this is awesome. And come July, I started to drink again and was like, this sucks. I felt so good in June. Like now I'm completely exhausted again and feeling like I was always fun. Like I didn't cause problems when I was drinking, but I definitely, as one does, lost some of my inhibitions and wasn't always as proud of how I carried myself in those moments. And yeah, it got to the point that I was just like sick of my own shit. I was sick of being tired, sick of feeling depressed, sick of being in this loop and wanting different for myself, but not totally knowing how to access that. And then very unfortunately, one of my friends and coworkers at the Wilder passed away. And that was a huge wake-up call for all of us. And it was definitely a really big wake-up call for me that like grief will sober you right up for sure. But it just put a lot into perspective. And within that couple of months, I also met my current partner who had been sober, I think, for 4 years at that time, 3 or 4 years. And I remember sitting on the beach with him and kind of asking him about his journey in sobriety. And he said a perspective that I hadn't really heard before, where he was like, I really chose to stop drinking because I was so passionate about surfing and wanted to focus my energy towards those other things. And it was just like a little light bulb that went off in me that was like, oh yeah, I don't have to have a like quote unquote problem to stop drinking. I can do it because I just want to put my energy other places. It can be that simple. And I read an amazing book called Quit Like a Woman. It's by a woman named Holly Whitaker. So shout out another Holly in the world. And one of the first sections of the book, she talks about that eating gluten, eating dairy, eating sugar, all of these things that I have cut out of my own life for my own health reasons. She's like, none of that is as bad for your body as drinking alcohol. And I was like, shit. I'm doing all of these things and I'm saying that I care about my health so much and prioritizing my wellness so much. And yet I'm like flushing it down the toilet every weekend. And just the last thing I'll share here is she said that the way that alcohol affects your sleep, especially, that even if you're drinking only twice a week, let's say, which is probably what I was doing at that time, because I was only working 2 nights a week. Even if you're only drinking twice a week, you're never sleeping to the full depth that you could be. Like you don't hit that REM cycle in the same way. And I was like, oh, that's why I'm constantly exhausted. Like, I don't want that for myself. I want to have energy again. So reading those things in that book, yeah, it was just like a slap in the face of, okay, I'm really being called to this. Those are a couple of the reasons realistically, there was so many different other things that made me think to do it and feel very called to it. But once I did it, the energy that I got back was like unmistakable. And just the way that my life has shifted since then, I am in awe of how much has shifted since I decided to stop drinking. It's amazing.
However, as a woman in her 20s in Portsmouth, trying to make friends, working, in the service industry, I'm sure it was very difficult to do that and perhaps difficult to explain to people why you were doing this. So how did you and how have you been able to resist all these societal pressures when so much revolves around drinking?
Yeah, I luckily have been gifted with kind of an unhuman level of stubbornness. So that helps for sure. But yeah, it was really uncomfortable at first, especially because I still was working at Wilder probably for 6 or so months, maybe longer after I stopped drinking. And the crew there at the time, we were having fun doing the restaurant thing and, taking a few shots during a shift. And people would still ask me if I wanted to partake for like a few months after. And they would ask, have you changed your mind yet? Or are you still doing that? And it was all, none of it was malicious, but it is hard. You have to be really strong in your decision to kind of withstand people pushing up against that, even in silly ways, whatever. And it is just such a normalized thing to question people if they're not drinking. The thing that I really have learned through this experience is how much it triggers other people when you are living your life in a way that maybe they want to do that, but they feel like they can't, or there's a whole slew of different things. But all of us, myself included, project onto each other all the time. So it was funny, actually. This was before I was sober. It was during that spiritual purpose program. There was a day that I did like a solo camping trip, and I went to Tuckaway Tavern after the
Which
trip.
I still need to go to. Everyone's told me
you got to go. It's really good. Yeah. Got a burger. The place is packed. It's so busy. And I sat at the bar in between 2 groups of people. And these 2 women were good friends, hadn't seen each other in years. And I wasn't drinking because I was doing this like spiritual vision quest at the time.
Naturally.
Of course. Who doesn't? Yeah, they went on this whole thing praising me about it and asking me all these questions. And it's like whether someone is judging you for it or putting you on a pedestal for it, you're going to feel uncomfortable about other people's reactions to what you do, whether it's sobriety or anything else that's a little bit against the grain. But a really important part of that book, and I've stuck to this in my decision to not eat gluten and dairy and different things in my life too. She said, once you make a decision, don't let it be a decision ever again. Don't wake up every day saying, am I going to drink or no? Like, it's not even a question in my mind of if I'm going to drink or not. I just don't do it. I don't even consider it an alternative option. That being said, like in my coaching too, I teach people with habit building to find intrinsic motivation, find a reason for doing whatever it is that you're doing that you actually value. Don't do something because someone else is telling you to. There's other steps to this process, but the last step of it is this balance between accountability and flexibility, where when you are building a new habit or breaking a habit, hold yourself accountable to that decision, but also if it's something, maybe drinking is not the best example of this, but it's okay to waver and to struggle and to question. And like, it took me a couple of times of trying to be sober, like that sober June or even times in the past before I actually fully stuck to it. And that's very common. But yeah, like I am making up my rules and my ideas of what I want to do for myself. I'm not doing it for anyone else. And I get to change my mind. That's what I'm trying to say. If one day down the road, I say, you know what? I'd like to have a glass of wine with my pasta in Italy. I'm not going to be so harsh with myself of like, I made this decision when I was 26 and I have to stick to it. Right now, that feels authentic and I'm going to stick to it. But who knows what the future will bring. And that's what I have to say about that one.
And you have not had a drink in 2+ years, not one?
Not one.
Wow.
Yeah, correct.
If someone's listening to this right now and perhaps finds themselves in a situation that you were once in, what would you say to someone who wants to get sober but doesn't quite believe they can do it?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you asked this because this is a really important piece that I kind of just missed with the answer to the last question. You have to be willing to lose people, experiences, ideas of yourself. You have to be willing to like shift your identity if you're going to make a big change like that. And I think that's what actually turns a lot of people away from making a lot of changes in their lives. I was afraid that I would lose a lot of the friends that I had made. And that I had to like come to terms with that for myself that yes, this is going to happen because I love those people still to this day. And like, if I saw them, would be very happy to see them. There's no bad blood whatsoever. But we were losing a shared interest. We were losing a shared activity. And that was truthfully the foundation of our friendship. And it's hard, really hard to admit to yourself when aspects of your life are like hanging on to a shaky foundation. And when that foundation is not authentic to you, you got to let it go. As hard as it is, you got to let it go. And for me, it was, I just couldn't ignore the calling to change it. So I would say for people who are feeling like they want to get sober or any change that you want to make in your life, if you cannot shake that desire because it feels so deeply true to you, then there are a million ways to move through the fear of it and to have the courage through it. But it's the self-abandonment that's going to hurt you way more if you continue to try to ignore that voice over and over again.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You said something earlier, basically referencing intuition. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot. Why? Because the third eye chakra is my favorite of all the ones. It's the only one I feel like I have a full grasp on. You have to get sober because you can't do it for someone else's reasons. You have to do it for you. And you very clearly spend a lot of time listening to yourself, asking yourself questions, checking in with yourself, breathing, feeling, how does this feel in my body? How does this feel in my heart? How do you start to connect with yourself better? Because in today's world, we are so distracted. I am so distracted all the time. We are so distracted. There's so many external stimuli. Boredom is a thing of the past. There's always something to do, something to scroll through. We spend far less time listening to ourselves with ourselves than we ever have before. So if perhaps someone is listening and is feeling very disconnected from themselves, how would you advise them to start to, remake that connection with themselves?
Yeah, it's obviously a very complicated and nuanced answer because it's different for every single person. But I think what you just named is so important, of just validating the fact that it's not easy to be connected to ourselves. And we have been conditioned our entire lives to be disconnected from ourselves, that the mind-body duality has done us such a disservice. And that mind-body duality extends to man-nature separateness. All of these versions of labels and categories that separate, and disconnect, when that's exactly the opposite of what is true and what we all need. So I would say that the awareness of that, okay, I am not crazy or broken or wrong or flawed because I'm struggling to connect to myself. It's literally ingrained in our society and has been for hundreds of years. I mean, since the outset of America as it is, and even before that. But that being said, how to actually do something with that information, I am big on helping people to reconnect to nature and to their bodies through joy. So much of healing is presented as the work. People call it doing the work. Yeah. And it's like, oh God, here's another capitalist thing. We got to grind and hustle through getting to know ourselves. And it's like,
yes, it's called work to sit and breathe with yourself.
And it's like, no, actually, this is a really beautiful, sacred privilege that we have to connect to this beautiful, miraculous body and the land as an extension of the body that we are all a part of. So really simple things like getting outside and going for walks, being by trees, being in gardens, opening your window when it's nice out and breathing in some fresh air. I love to drink tea. I'm sipping on my little tea, and I drink tea every single morning as a way, instead of looking at my phone first thing in the morning, I will wake up and put my hands on my body and hold my heart and hold my belly and take some breaths and be like, hey, Holly, here we are. Because Holly, we think of ourselves, our identity, as just our mind, just our thoughts. A lot of people, myself included, I have to remind myself of this often, think of Holly as this floating idea. But this is Holly. My foot is Holly, Every single cell of me is Holly, and every single cell of Troy is Troy. And just peeling back the layers that have made us think that we are not all of this, and then really simple, joyful reconnecting through dance and singing and eating real food. What a crazy concept. Drinking tea, going outside, really simple, accessible, free things too. It doesn't have to be crazy biohacking, expensive supplements.
Don't get me started on biohacking. I love to, one of my most grounding things is looking at the stars. I love a good, clear, starry night. There's just something about the perspective that it gives me. I read it in a book once, we call it star therapy. I love to look at the stars. And again, the star space is something that is so vast and really impossible for us to comprehend. And it makes me think, little Troy up in his head all day, worrying, stressed about all of the things that in the grand scheme of time, human history, galaxies, doesn't matter. None of it matters. And people hate when I say that. It's like, what are you telling me? My life doesn't matter. Like, no, it really doesn't matter. Like, we are an ant. The dinosaurs were around 600 million years ago. Time has been around a very long time. We are like a speck of dust in the grand vastness of time. And so I love to look at the stars when I've had like a crazy day where everything is life or death. And I just look at the stars and be like, it's not that serious, dude. So I love doing those kinds of things as well. And I love what you said about the physically just checking in with yourself. One of my favorite things to do is I'll do something along those similar lines as well. I'll just like stare at my leg or something. I'll stare at my arm and be like, this arm has been with me the entire 29 years of my life. Like, I've been looking at this same arm the whole time. How cool is that? Like, it's taken all different forms. Sometimes it's been skinny. Sometimes it's been jacked. It's still the same arm.
That's very psychedelic of you, Troy.
I suppose. I've never done psychedelics, but I probably should at some point. Everyone wants me to do them.
We could talk about that off camera.
Okay, fantastic. Speaking of off camera, allow me to interject here to tell you about Holly's place of employment, as well as my own, Three Bridges Yoga. Three Bridges Yoga is the premier vinyasa yoga studio in Portsmouth. With over 100 classes per month accessible to all ages and all athletic abilities, it's no wonder why 3BY is the most beloved studio on the Seacoast. If you like a more athletic class, I strongly suggest my friend Caroline or KDB. If you like it a little slower, more restorative, then Holly and Aaron are some personal favorites of mine. If you want to get spiritual and leave feeling some type of way, you can't go wrong with Sheila and Ankati. And starting in late February, I will be teaching Friday mornings there, but if you'd like to hang with me at Three Bridges before that, then you can certainly find me there every Thursday at 7 a.m. taking a class with the owner, Stephanie. If you'd like to join me for that class or any other class, Three Bridges Yoga is offering some special deals just for Seacoast Stories podcast listeners. If you've never been to the studio before, you can use the code SSNewbie to pay just $39 for 30 days, which is a crazy good deal. That's SSNEWBIE. If you are a returning yogi, just use SS5450. to pay $50 for a pack of 5 classes, totaling $10 per class. You can't beat it. That's SS, the digit 5, FOR50 at threebridgesyoga.com. The link and the promo codes are also in today's show notes. So a hot topic on the Seacoast, as a few of you are probably aware, especially from last week's live podcast with Dagan Migerditch, the lack of affordable housing in Portsmouth is a real problem. But what if I told you there were brand new condos in Portsmouth that don't break the bank and that you'd actually want to live in? Enter Sage Portsmouth, the new condos located in the McKinnon's Plaza, or as we're now calling that area, Portsmouth Green. Sage Portsmouth is home to 95 beautiful studio, 1-bed, and 2-bedroom condos. I've toured these condos several times now, and I've never seen anything like this on the Seacoast. With proximity to McKinnon's, Vita Cantina, Starbucks, and several fitness studios, you've got everything you could ever want right in that area. You don't have to leave, and it's very walkable. Plus, Sage features a number of on-site amenities and work-from-home pods, and the homes themselves are stunning, from walk-in closets to modern finishes and reminders of coastal living everywhere you turn. And this holiday season only, Sage is offering big discounts on over 20 homes, with prices starting at $429,900 and workforce housing opportunities available. Sage Portsmouth is ready to give the Seacoast housing scene a makeover. To inquire, just visit sageportsmouth.com. If you're in the market for a new home, act fast because these prices will go up significantly in the new year. Thank you, Sage Portsmouth, and thank you, Three Bridges Yoga, for supporting the show. Now back to my conversation with Holly Ransom. Let's talk about dance because we share a love for ecstatic dance. So I had Ankati, the Seacoast yoga instructor, and she does many other forms of healing as well. She leads ecstatic dance. It's so fun. You've been going to ecstatic dance for a while. For the people who perhaps didn't hear my podcast with Ankati earlier this year, can you just explain what ecstatic dance is?
Yeah, so ecstatic dance specifically, and the way that she hosts it specifically, is a completely substance-free experience where you are accessing the prana, the life force, juicy yumminess.
You love the word juicy.
I do. From within yourself. It's realizing it's almost like taking DMT versus doing breath work. We have DMT that's inside of our brains already that you can access through doing breath work. Like we have all of these wild powers within ourselves that do not require outside substances. And dance is such a way to access an altered state of consciousness, an ecstatic state of consciousness. So it's allowing you to kind of let go of those inhibitions without needing an external substance to get to that place.
It's my favorite form of dance. The only form of dance I really like. I'm not a dancer. If I were in a ballroom setting, I would not know what I'm doing. But the thing that's great about ecstatic dance, yes, substance-free, device-free, no talking. There's no choreography. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. You can lay on the floor for the entirety of the session, or you can flail your arms like crazy. And as long as you're not hitting anyone, it's totally fine. Anything goes. And for the most part, it's a judgment-free zone. And this is the big fear with yoga at gyms in an ecstatic dance setting. Oh my God, people are going to look at me. What are they thinking? And if there's something I've learned from yoga, it's like, no one's looking at you. Like people's eyes are closed. They're there to connect with themselves. They don't care what you look like in that setting. And that's the thing I love about ecstatic dance is when I'm in a ballroom, when I'm at a wedding, I feel like people might be watching me. But in the ecstatic dance setting, no one's watching me. It's very dark as well. And I can just listen to the music and I listen to my body and how it wants to move. And it's just the most freeing thing. I am craving these mediums these days that allow me to fully lock in on that thing. Interviewing is one of those things. Yeah. Editing a social media video is one of those things. Like any kind of art form, dance being one of them, taking a yoga class, that is where I just feel the most and connecting to myself in those kinds of moments is so beautiful. And I just love ecstatic dance so much.
I love watching you light up talk about it.
It's great. I can't convince anyone to go with me because it sounds, people are afraid of it because it sounds very bizarre. And it is kind of bizarre. No matter how many times you go, the first 10 to 15 minutes of it are very strange, but you just have to lean into it.
Yeah. And I will say, like, it breaks my heart that it's something that has become so scary to people because it's actually so primal and instinctual to dance. Humans have danced since we've been humans, probably before that, probably when we were whatever came before evolutionarily. Yeah. We were probably dancing too. It's so freeing. And it's exactly what you just said. It's a state of liberation from being within or attached to the judgments within our minds, which is where we spend so much time. And stepping out of that into just being like a kid, like just being in awe of not being so stressed about what are people thinking of me? What am I thinking of me? Shut up and just have fun.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard to do that. It's scary to do that. There's so much conditioning against that. And it's all very real. And I've experienced that too, even having danced my whole life. But there's nothing better. Like the way you just lit up talking about it. It's the flow state. It's pure joy. And I talk about this and focus on this a lot in my coaching because as I've mentioned throughout this, I am a deeply emotional human, and emotions are something that a lot of humans struggle with quite a lot. And joy to me is this thing that we have to pass through the deepest depths of grief to access the fullest heights of joy. And it says to me when someone is really afraid of accessing joy in those ways, of just dancing and letting loose and going to something like ecstatic dance, that says to me that they have things within themselves that they have been afraid to face on the other end of the spectrum. And that's not a judgment. That's not a right or wrong thing because it's absolutely terrifying to face your depths. But when you do face grief and hardship and challenge and the raw pain of what life can bring, then it's like not even a question to want to celebrate on the other side of that, because we have this one precious life to dance through. So of course I'm going to dance through it and not let the small fear of being judged keep me from joy, because there's a real fear of loss and death and endings that motivates me to live as fully as I can.
You're just one of my favorite people. For the people listening, I don't know if you can, but whenever you speak, Holly, I can hear the smile when you speak.
No.
You have such a warm, radiant energy. And all of you need to take a yoga class or do some type of healing with Holly at some point, just because I just feel the love from you. You're the best. Switching gears a little bit. So you are among the many hats you wear, you are a business owner, you are an entrepreneur, you are a creator. And I'm just wondering how, since you really went all in on your coaching business and running your own business, you and I have talked before about just how difficult it is and how stressful it is and how all encompassing it is and how it never stops. And so I'm just wondering at this moment, how you are doing, like genuinely how you are doing. I don't mean like business wise. I mean more so sanity wise, being a business owner.
Ooh, yeah. Being a spiritual person, I never thought that business would be like the biggest spiritual test of my life, but it is presenting itself as such. It's been such a journey of self-understanding and recognizing my own patterns and the ways that I have formed different ideas and beliefs about what I should do, what I can do, what I'm capable of, what's possible, what's not, yada, yada, yada. And it's inviting me and has invited me to challenge all of that and to really become the creator of my own story, and also to surrender to complete openness of possibility of being guided on this path as well. That I don't have to be so firmly in the driver's seat, that there is something outside of me, and I use many different names for it. And I don't think that personally landing on one name feels that important, because language is a representation of things that we can't fully capture. But whether you call it universe, God, source, whatever, there's something bigger than me that is guiding me along this path. And the more that I surrender to that guidance, the more success that I have been finding. But it's been very confronting, because it's forced me to look at all of the ways that I have been gripping onto my idea of how things should go and what success looks like and what's possible for me because of XYZ that I experienced in my childhood or that my parents experienced, blah, blah, blah. So entrepreneurship has been a roller coaster. It's really, again, I'm going to use the word invited me to look at my confidence and my ability to really back myself, to make financial bets on myself, and to make good on those bets for myself, and to not let my fear speak louder than my courage and my faith. So it's been really hard and scary in a lot of ways, but really empowering too. And I'm definitely in a moment now, and it's actually been less than a year since I launched my coaching program, less than a year since I did the LLC version of Cycles and Shadows and everything. And looking back at everything I've created, I am in awe. I'm in complete awe. And I actually had one of my mentors recently tell me, because I've been going through a challenging personal experience the past 2 weeks, she was like, you have so much energy that is pouring into kind of like the drama and intensity of this moment, when really you need to look at yourself with so much love and awe. And since I had that conversation with her, I've been reflecting on like, wow, yeah, I've created a lot, and I have surrendered so much into all of this. And actually working with clients has been incredible and the most fulfilling work that I've ever done. And my own podcast feels so good. You were talking about like the flow state. I love interviewing people and hearing their stories and sharing other people's wisdom and just all of it. Yeah. Again, I guess the short version of this answer is it's the hardest thing I've ever done and it's the best thing I've ever done. And I'm so excited that this is the beginning of it and I get to just keep growing in it.
I think they say that entrepreneurship is the greatest self-development program you'll ever go through, if you will. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, you said you're going through, in the last 2 weeks, a very challenging moment. Do you mind explaining what's happening?
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into detail with this one, but I think I know other people actually are relating to this. I'm going to bring it into astrology for a second, but.
And also, when we are speaking, it is beginning of November.
Yes. So. Okay. Thank you. Forgot. Happy holidays. Astrology, human design, gene keys, numerology. I love all of these different tools and modalities as just, I like to use the word maps of understanding. So it's all just pattern recognition tools that we get to use to play with to understand ourselves more deeply. And a lot of people think of astrology as just a horoscope thing, but it's like so much deeper than that. But take it or leave it. You can think whatever you want about astrology. I have found it very helpful to reflect on what I'm moving through in my life, karmically, life lessons, all the things. And 2 weeks ago, we had a new moon in Libra and a bunch of other planets and things moved into the sign of Scorpio. So Libra is very relational. Scorpio is very much like the underground, the muckiness, the secrets being revealed. So I've been going through some just like relationship struggles and recognizing, oh, I'm conflict avoidant. You're conflict avoidant. We've been doing that for 2 years. We should probably figure this out. And I hadn't been looking at the astrology at all until we kind of had a weekend of getting deeper into things. And then I was like, I wonder what's going on in the sky right now. And I was like, oh, it's all perfectly aligned. Here we are at this moment. So it's been an intense moment of relational dynamics and navigating that. I'm 28, so I'm still pretty young. And that's always been a challenging part of my life. So I have felt within myself my whole life that one of my life tasks and lessons is navigating healthy relationships. And I did not have a great guide on how to do that. So every relationship that I've been through has been a journey, a process of peeling back layers of self-recognition of how am I showing up in this dynamic that I should probably grow through and maybe let go of, and what's good? What do I want to keep? So this is, just another season and cycle of recognizing some of those patterns. And for me right now, attachment style has been a big thing, and it's such a human question. How do we love each other in a proper way? And I think a lot of people in our generation did not have the best examples of how to do that, because each generation above us like got a little bit better, learned a little bit more than their parents taught them. But we're all just trying our best, making it up. And It's hard. It's hard to be a human.
Yeah. Aside from the Bible, I'm not sure if there's been more impactful books than the attachment style book and the love languages book, because I swear every first date I go on, it comes up on every first date. The woman always wants to talk about love languages and attachment styles. I'm like, can't we just talk about like puppies or something? Why do we have to get into this on the first date? But it's our generation has become a foundational part of who we gel with in relationships and such. So on the subject of attachment styles, I actually haven't read the attachment styles book. I own it, but I haven't read it. But I just know that I am definitely an avoidant attachment type. Can that be worked on? Can I become something else, or is that just who I am?
I love that this is becoming the conversation. So actually I was just listening to a podcast before this, and there's a guy, Terry Real. that created a grid, a relationship grid. On one axis of the grid is boundaries, and then another one is the bottom level is shame, and the top level is superiority. And there's the avoidant side, the walled off version of the avoidant superior, avoidant shame. Shame version looks more like depression. Superior looks a little bit more aggressive and like snooty, like you don't deserve my love. And then there's the boundaryless version, which is more of the anxious, codependent pattern, which can look like kind of being addicted to love, grasping for love, like feeling like you need to control people to get love. And all of that can be worked through, and everyone can kind of meet in the middle if the desire is there to do that and the courage is there to meet yourself in honesty. I think that's the hardest part of all of it. And for me recently too, is like, it's the heartbreak of recognizing that little Holly was so hurt and felt the need to protect herself so much that she learned that this was the only way that she could get love, was to fall. I definitely lean more towards the anxious attachment style. And it just breaks my heart that little Holly thinks that she needs to control people to get them to love her, or to control how people perceive me to get them to love me. And for the avoidant, it's more about like the fear of being engulfed or somebody else infringing on your boundaries. But all of it is, in my experience, and what I have learned and what's helped me, all of it is just learning how to relate to your inner child in a different way, how to reparent your inner child in ways that you did not necessarily receive when you were younger, and to bring that into the present moment, just to recognize like what's coming up for me right now that's making me feel this way or react in this way. So that awareness is a really big part. And whether it's avoidant or anxious, you can grow through it. I think the key is, again, like the motivation. For the avoidant, it's like you're good with you no matter what, but do you want to actually love someone and really deeply connect with someone in real intimacy and vulnerability? Then you're going to have to learn how to let someone in. And for me, same thing. If I really want to have real intimacy that is not this like controlled, manipulated thing that my inner child thinks that she needs to do, I have to just learn how to be myself and have boundaries and still believe that I deserve love that way. And like to let somebody into the real me, not this version of me that I have dreamt up because I think that's the version of me that deserves love. So it's not easy and it sucks. But it's what more valuable task could we undertake to meet ourselves in those more loving ways so that we can actually love people like for real, for real. And I think that extends far beyond the romantic as well. That I think that that's just a huge aspect of how humans relate to one another in general and how we're going to continue to build a more peaceful, loving world where people can actually work through conflict instead of having things explode in the way that we see all around us.
I love it. Well, I'm sure these subjects are things that come up in your coaching business. I want to ask you about that in a quick moment. But first, I did some social media stalking, which is, my form of research. You posted a video that got quite a lot of views and engagement a few weeks ago. And one of the quotes I pulled out from this just really caught my attention. Quote, "We have been taught that we are machines. Our consciousness has been industrialized." What does that mean?
Well, I spoke to this a little bit before when you were asking about how can we reconnect to ourselves. And it really goes back to, it goes back farther, but such a key person that shifted the philosophical view of humanness is Descartes. And
shout out Rene, right?
Rene, yeah. What a guy.
Enlightenment philosopher.
And he really hammered in this dichotomy between the mind and body, and went through this whole thought experiment of doubting every single thought in his mind to try to reach the ultimate truth of something that he could grasp onto as like, this is real and I'm not just making it up. I'm not crazy. This is not all just a figment of my imagination. And he landed on the quote that I'm sure people have heard before: I think, therefore I am. Basically saying, thought is what makes me me. It's what makes me alive. It's the realest thing about me. I like to think of that quote more so as I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am, because his whole experiment was doubting every thought in his mind until he arrived at, well, I'm doubting, so that's real. I can't get rid of that doubt. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but very interesting guy. But he really had this whole idea about separating the brain from the body, and where would we be? Would we be the brain in the jar, or would we be in the body? And it's really kind of fueled the capitalist view of humanness since that became a popularized idea. And we have been looked at as machines, and that our bodies are these things that are just controlled by our brain, that our brain is like a command center and it's all chemical and electrical, and it's kind of sucked the feeling and the soul out of the human experience. And that has completely shifted and altered and created the foundation of our society of existing in such stark separation from nature, to the point that we use nature as a resource, as a indispensable object. We objectify nature by cutting down forests, by factory farming, by so many different things that I don't want to get into because I'm getting depressed as I'm saying the things. But then we've also, by extension, objectified ourselves and our experience as a part of nature. So what I meant by that our consciousness has been industrialized is that the conditioning has been so successful in convincing us that we are separate from nature that we, just as you asked before, how can we feel more connected to ourselves? We've been completely separate from ourselves. We have been very, according to the people who profit from it, we've been very successfully separated from our own bodies and from the power that we have within our own body. Even before, when I was saying like breathwork and dance are these amazing ways that we can access joy and shifts within our internal experience. Food is another thing that comes to mind of like real food, quality nutrition has such a huge impact on our chemical, hormonal, electrical balance throughout our bodies. But instead, it's more common for people to prescribe medications and prescribe these external pharmaceutical interventions rather than to share things that would, not profit the system. So clearly there's a lot of different aspects that I could go into so many different rabbit holes with all of it. But yeah, the foundation of that is we've been convinced that our brain and body are separate. And that is the biggest, saddest lie that we have been sold.
And I'm sure you work on this a lot with the people you coach, trying to get them to feel more connected to their bodies. When we talk about holistic healing, that's at the root of it. Take me into your coaching sessions. In what situations does someone seek you out, and what do you help them navigate?
Yeah, so I think like condensed version is people that come to me like know something is off, and my program helps to peel back the layers of conditioning that we've just been talking about of oh, like this is why I feel disconnected from myself. And these desires that I have for myself go against what I've been told is normal or approved of, or this, that, or the other thing. And I get to learn how to listen to my own wisdom above the voice of fear from the outside world. So yeah, a lot of people that are like, I'm kind of a weirdo. So I think
You're definitely a weirdo. Yeah.
I think I'm attracting other people that are unique and adventurous and want to live differently. Like folks that have been boxed into a cookie cutter life that are not supposed to be living a cookie cutter life. And a lot of people that I've been working with also have very complex histories of trauma. And that's a lot to process and navigate. That there's been so many different, I think, quite interesting ways that humans have come up with to, I'm going to say the word like to deal with trauma. And a lot of what I've seen done in that sphere and like the ways that I've seen trauma approached hasn't always felt completely, what's the word I'm looking for? It just hasn't felt empowering. Like a lot of it feels, so much of talk therapy is so focused on, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? What's the story? What's the memory? What's whatever? And I really help folks to access like more presence and more forward thinking. What can I do in my life now for me to honor moving forward, not to just rehash the past in a cycle, but how can I love myself in this moment, acknowledge what happened, but like move forward and create differently for myself and not be stuck in the victim story of that stuff. Yeah.
Holly, thank you so much for joining me today. I've got one final question for you, and then I'll let you go so you can go talk to a plant. If you could deliver one message to little Holly, little 10-year-old Holly, who you said was stressed and anxious and didn't quite know her place in the world, what would 28-year-old Holly say to little 10-year-old Holly?
You're so cool. You're so cool. I spent so much time. I was bullied in elementary school. Shout out if you got bullied. I love you. And I really let that get to me and like convince me that I was such a weirdo and so flawed and so strange and alien woman. And still you call me a weirdo. I know it's from love, but I am a weirdo, right?
Yeah,
but,
you're my favorite weirdo.
I would go back in time and tell every single version of myself, like, you are so cool. And all of your weirdness is so beautiful and miraculous. And like, just love yourself, girl, because nobody really knows what they're doing. And the people who think that they're so cool and act like they're so cool are not having a good time inside either. So we're all just trying our best. I'd give myself a hug and probably give myself chocolate because I love chocolate.
I think that is a great piece of advice. I can co-sign. You are very cool.
Thank you.
Despite being a weirdo. Holly, thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing all of your wisdom with us. It's clear all the inner work you have done. So thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for all you do for the people of the Seacoast across the 13 different jobs that you have. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me, Troy.
That's Holly Ransom, a Seacoast yoga instructor, sound healer, Reiki practitioner, holistic coach, podcast host, and waitress. I think I said it all. You can catch her at Three Bridges Yoga on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and Fridays at 4:30 p.m. I strongly suggest you check out her classes. As for Seacoast Stories, our next dinner club is taking place Wednesday, January 7th, and it's going to Newburyport, which is in fact the Seacoast. I will die on that hill. To join us for another evening of fun, connecting, and supporting local, you can hit the dinner link in the show notes of this episode. We'll be back next week with another conversation with a close friend from a past life of mine. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Live free or die.